Guys, good evening and welcome back. Alright, so I want to show you guys another method you can use to achieve your Welt Pocket. I remember last video I posted was on Welt Pocket. Now the reason I'm showing you guys this method is to make sure that every knowledge I pass across is well understood, and then you have different approaches to it, and then it will go a long way to explain to us how we can possibly achieve these things without much stress. Now, having cut out the cloth in this form, and then I believe by now you guys must have known that the plackets are being cut at 3 inches width by 7 inches or 7.5, depends on your customer size. And then you hold this in this form on the right face, on the right part, and then run a thread across that way. Now the threading must be in line with the width of the pocket you want to have as your opening, right? And then the gap between one line to the other must not exceed half an inch. It must be half an inch. Then having sewn that way, then you turn the back, and then you must make sure you have fixed your lining at the back. So this is the back part of the trouser, and then if you notice, the lining is a bit shorter than the trouser length, and then those areas will help this thing will help you to have a perfect finishing. So the lining is being placed 2 inches or 2.5 inches below the trouser length, and then you must make sure you have your lining positioned properly this way, and then you must have gummed as well. Now this gumming is, I use the paper gum to gum this. Now you're gumming across the dart point, right? So you now start to open your pocket. Now the pocket opening must be done neatly, so you turn it this other way around, and then you notch the midpoint from there. Now half an inch or 1 inch in is enough. Notch it in that way, and then make sure you notch all through, and then you place your scissors inwards that way, and then you cut from there. Then approaching the end of the cutting, you pause a bit and make sure you raise the placket up, and then you fold it in that form, and you cut it in a V-shaped form just that way. Then make sure you end at the end of the line. Then you turn over to the other side of the placket, fold in this form so you will see the end properly, right? And then you slit in this form, so you must have it cut in this V-shaped form. Then having done that, you fling it over to the other way as well, and then you cut as well, and then repeat the same process on this part. Fold in that form, and then you cut in a V-shaped form, right? Make sure you stop at the end, as you can see at the end of the threading, right? And the both threads must be equal. You also fold this other one as well, and then you cut in this shape as well. Then make sure you stop at the exact position of your threading, and then you start to prepare or to tuck it in. You tuck the upper one in, make sure it's properly tucked in that way, and then you now arrange it properly, making sure that the edges are properly aligned, and then you fold half an inch or 1/4 inch depending on the opening you have sewn, and then make sure that this folding must be the same size with your slit opening, right? And then once you have confirmed that way, then you push it in that form, and then make sure that the edges are properly tucked in, right? You have to hold it from the back to arrange it properly, and then as you're tucking it in, you're also adjusting the size of the folding so that it will correspond to whatsoever measurements opening you have there. Then once you're able to do this properly this way, this is the result of your Welt Pocket, and this is how it must look like, or it must be like. So I hope this video must have shown us how we can achieve this and more, and how we can have a nice pocket, Welt Pocket opening and sewing at the back of our trouser. You can also use this method to attach Welt Pocket on any part of your clothes, be it for adults, kids, female, any area it can work properly, right? So you now proceed to stitch the sides. So you raise the main fabric up, you raise the lining, and then you stitch the tongue-like effect there. You stitch the V notch material there, and making sure you stitch on top of it properly, right? So stitch all through that way, stitch all through this way, and then once you are done stitching that point, you are done, you can now go and repeat the same process on the other part of the trouser as well. You cut your threads as well, and then make sure everything is properly arranged. Then having done this now, the next you will do now is to as well you cross check the folding as well. Then you do the other part as well, making sure that everything is properly taken care of or taken note of. Then you stitch the tongue like effect. As you can see, I'm stitching only the tongue, that angle like measurement there. You stitch that tongue effect, so this is where you must stitch, right? Then having stitched that point, so the next you will do now is as well you cut your thread as well, right? And then you will now start arranging the other aspects of the trouser, of the welt pocket, and then you fold this other one this way, and then run the slitting that is attached to the beneath placket, right? The material that came out underneath the placket, you stitch. Now the stitching is to help you retain the same folding you have made on the outside pocket. So stitch the allowance that appeared underneath the lower placket of the welt pocket. Then after doing that as well, you cut your threads as shown, and then you also make sure everything is properly taken care of. Cut your threads as shown, right? And then after which you can now arrange it properly this way, and then you cross check everything in detail. Cut your threads, then cut the excesses of the placket that is protruding. Cut the excesses that way as well. Cross check or cut the excesses that way as well, and then I can see the outcome, right? Then you hold it properly that way, and then the placket that is attached to the pocketing, you are going to top stitch on top. Then you can now fold that edge if you do not weave, but if you have weaved, you don't need to fold. So you just fold half an inch or quarter inch that way, and then you top stitch on top that way, right? So you make sure you top stitch on top that way, and then you go all through down that point, and then you cut your threads as well. So cut your threads as well, and then next thing you will do now is you arrange the material, the lining, to be 1 inch or 2 inches longer than the main trouser. Now we are trying to lock or close the back welt pocket. Then once it's longer now, you now notch or you stitch that edge. If you want to do it that way, right, you can still notch it and go ahead and turn it over. Then you stitch from that end that way, stitch from there, right, stitch from there that way, and then you raise the main trouser up. Then you stitch on top as well this way. You stitch on top that way, right? This is one of the easiest methods as well. Now the reason I show you this method is to encourage you and to give you better insights or hints on how to go about them. Then once you are done doing this, the next thing you will do now is to cut your threads this way, and then you now fold the pocketing inwards, and then you top stitch, right? So it's just as simple as ABCD, and this is how you can achieve your welt pocket stitching. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget, this is Mr. Defined, so you can as well top stitch the one on inner, right, the one that came down to the one on top that way. So it's just for you to have a perfect finishing on that particular trouser, right? So you top stitch as well in that form, and then the next you will do now is to cut your threads as well, and then you can now start locking the edges of the pocket. At this point, if you want to pipe the pocket, you can pipe with your bias. If you want to fold, you can now fold with your bias. So I hope this will go a long way to help us to learn or to see how these things are done, and for us to be more knowledgeable on all of these processes or procedures. So you fold from there then you top stitch like that way. Then when approaching the one under, the one shorter, you now fold as well to correspond the both tips of the pocket, right? So this is how you can go doing your welt pockets in a more simplified manner and even more appropriate manner. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video.